You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All righty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-hosts Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
I'm sifting through injuries. I think we all are. I'm doing good. Like it's good to be here on Tuesday night. Another good weekend of football. But holy smokes, we are going into week 3, and the key, like star players, if you will, fantasy relevant players, the amount of injuries and missing time is outrageous right now already. So definitely combing through some waiver wires and seeing what might be out there, seeing what I can do on some different rosters to utilize my bench strength and moving forward. So this is going to be a good show because we're facing the same problems, or at least I am, that everybody else is, and across multiple leagues. So ready to get after it. It's time for a grind.
I gotta say, I finally, it's week 2, but I picked up a win in the home league. That was nice. I was top scorer. That was helpful, but at what cost? To piggyback off of what Kevin had to say, because I'm going to be facing some tough decisions this next week in terms of my wide receivers for sure. Or we're going to need some help, some voodoo magic to heal some guys quickly throughout the week. But I've lost. I'm 0 in my work league and my league with my high school buddies. So it's been a rough start to the season. Not that I haven't been scoring well. I've just kind of had some bad lucks. I got Christian McCaffrey in my work league, which I think we all kind of got Christian McCaffrey if you were picking at the 101 or 102. That's been a giant disappointment. And the waiver wire is being combed over as we speak.
Yeah, it certainly has been an interesting one, to say the least, right? Like this one, this season for sure seems like these injuries have been, a little bit more high profile, maybe a little more prevalent early in the season here. And this is kind of one of those two that I find it interesting that we heard all of this talk about, about players, finding research around hamstrings and potentially, ways to try and avoid some of these things. And we had a couple of guys go down way late in the week, and guys that are top end of their positions go down late in the week to kind of bring that thing to a whole different level there, right? AJ Brown with the hamstring injury late into practice Friday. And then, Evan Ingram going out in pregame and having that there as well. So, couple that with the fact that we saw a bunch of it of in-game injuries as well. So it is interesting as we're getting out there in these fantasy streets, so to speak.
It feels like we're all kind of like eulogizing our season at the moment, right? Like it's just this. It's only week 2, and we preach this on this show that like, hey, like you don't win or lose the season, in the first couple of weeks. I think especially by the quarter point of the season, so that's your week 4, and in most typical regular seasons for a fantasy football league is 12 or 13 weeks. So by week 4, if you haven't figured it out, then you better start going on a run to get yourself in a position to make the playoffs. But it does feel like, man, just like these guys that we thought were going to be just old reliable, and now we're getting into to like it's happening sooner, where like it's going to be a battle of attrition. Maybe that's what this season is defined as. It's just like who can avoid the major injury. Whereas, some seasons it's who can find that diamond in the rough, who can find that Puka Nacua last year. and ride that all the way to success. But right now it just looks bleak here, and as we head into week 3, because all these big names, all your first round picks are hurt.
Right. Here's a comforting thought for everyone's out there, right? Like you mentioned there a little bit, but there's a good chance that there is a league winner still on the waiver wire.
Oh yeah.
At this point, right? Like,
yeah.
Looking through it, and you sit there and you think about guys that have over the seasons, right, been guys that emerge and really have just week winning type of performances and really flash from weeks 15 through 17, playoff type of time frame that many folks were down and out on this early in the season were or guys that were still on the waiver wire, right? Like you think about at this point last year, Brees Hall, like a lot of folks were kind of down on him. You could kind of do a buy low on that one at this point last season, and had a great finish down the stretch. Kyron Williams was certainly more in the what was this really going to look like type of thing last year at this point in the season. It certainly came on strong there, right? Joe Flacco, we weren't even thinking of at that point, and definitely showed out. David Njoku and Juwan Johnson at this point last year, right? Njoku had that kind of injury come through, and a lot of people ended up dropping him. But Juwan Johnson was a guy that a lot of folks had picked up off the waiver wire, right? Like there are things out there that can certainly come to pass and help you out down the stretch here, and it's just a matter of staying through it and staying through the grind at that point. Any other thoughts here? Are we ready to hit up some questions, some comments? We got a lot of folks out there looking for some guidance, I do believe.
Well, I'm sure we'll touch base on so much of it through the questions and comments. So let's jump into that, and then we'll see where this takes us tonight.
All righty. So Terrence, welcome back in, Terrence. Asking, should I drop Dalton Schultz and add Ferguson or Hunter Henry?
Well, is Schultz your number 2 tight end, right? The biggest thing is, are we sure Ferguson's coming back this week? Or if he's still a little dinged up. Obviously, the numbers haven't been great. There's been a lot less heading his way with Nico and Diggs, and obviously Joe Mixon being so heavily involved. Obviously, you have Tank Dell there. So, yeah, Dalton Schultz's share is inherently smaller. So I would question, are we confident Ferguson is coming back? I was just looking at a roster with him on there with an injury update. See if I can find it. Anyway, so we'll pause on that. Hunter Henry. My biggest problem with Hunter Henry this week is the Jets. Right? Like that is something that I don't feel overly fond of here. Is kind of seeing that against the Jets. So I would caution towards that. Ferguson is expected back for week 3. The early reports of the week are. So if your waiver wires clear tonight into tomorrow, you have to kind of take that gamble. Obviously, if they clear Wednesday into Thursday morning, it gives you that extra day worth of information to kind of see what comes out. But as player to player, if Ferguson is coming back and that knee's not going to be a problem, I would absolutely rather have Jake Ferguson than Dalton Schultz.
Agreed. Any other thoughts on that one?
No.
All right. Terrence asking, should I drop Ty Chandler and pick up Raheem Mostert 12-person league?
I don't hate this. I don't hate this. So with Tua going on IR, the Dolphins are going to be forced to run the football a ton. I do not think that the Dolphins are going to ask Devon Achane to touch the ball 29 times week in and week out. So there's going to be balls to go around in the Dolphins backfield, right? They're not going to ask Skylar Thompson or Brett Hundley to play outside of themselves. So I think if you're able to grab Mostert, that's a really good pickup in a 12-man league to be able to use him as some stronger bench depth and a run first offense that can still be pretty explosive just because of their speed, more so than probably what you're going to get from Ty Chandler.
And it's going to be just to add to that, it's going to be, if the disappointing thing is that Mostert, because I have him on a bunch of my rosters, is that he hasn't been available or he wasn't available last week. So you need to be able to absorb that. But when Achane is out, Raheem Mostert is, the number one option down there in Miami outside of Achane. And we know that Achane, the way that he's built, unfortunately, he's probably not going to play all season long. So that's something that if you can absorb the weeks that Raheem Mostert isn't going to play, but then it's great. And to add to Kevin's point, or to echo Kevin's point, that they're going to become kind of like that old Dolphins offense where it was the wildcat everywhere. Like I can't imagine a world in which we see Skylar Thompson or Brett Hundley, whoever's playing quarterback, throwing the football, more than 20 times, more than 25 times in a game. Like I just don't see a world in which that happens.
Fair enough. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and hit this one up. Burrow or Purdy this week. Was trying to combine both names. That was fun. Burrow or Purdy this week? It's Burrow for me, and it's not close.
I think Burrow as well. With Debo going down, you already have McCaffrey down. I think I'm going to Burrow too.
And Burrow gets to play Washington
at home desperately. That's a team that needs something to prove. Yeah. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy's walking into LA against a desperate Rams team that needs to get a win. So I think I'd take Burrow. I like Burrow better than I like Purdy this week.
There we go. All right. And then Terrence was also asking flex Cooper or JMO. So Amari Cooper or Jamison Williams in the flex this week.
I'm going JMO.
Yeah, I like Jamison Williams too. Especially if, look, Amon-Ra St. Brown went out, missed the last 5 plays, right? It is on the injury report. They're downplaying it, right? Detroit says, it's okay. We're expecting him in week 3. But if Amon-Ra St. Brown can't go, then Jamison Williams becomes Jared Goff's number 1 target, right? And he's already proven that he can be Jared Goff's number 1 target with the week 1. So I like Jamison Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Jamison Williams as well, right? Like he's got the matchup, the better matchup between the two as well, right? Like the Cardinals have been a little bit more forgiving and allowing more fantasy points to opposing wide receivers than what the Giants have. Amari Cooper, right? Like this is one of those two. I trust Jared Goff to deliver a better football throwing it than Deshaun Watson at this point. So, I'm leaning JMO as well. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
Alrighty. Alrighty. So I'm just going to call this. Oh, it's Rush Aid. Okay. So Rush Aid over on YouTube. What is up? What do you guys think about trading J.K. Dobbins and Terry for Mike Evans?
As someone who just made a deal for Mike Evans, that did not work out for him this week, but I think will work out in the long run. I like Mike Evans season long. Dobbins. I think McLaurin's tough. I'm sure you guys have seen it because it's everywhere, but J.J. McCarthy, who has famously not played a game in the NFL yet in the regular season, has as many touchdowns as any other rookie quarterback this year. So, meanwhile, every other rookie quarterback has played 2 games. I don't know that I like Terry McLaurin. I think Jaden Daniels is the first to figure it out of the rookies, but I like Mike Evans. I like the quarterback throwing to Mike Evans more than I like the quarterback throwing to Terry McLaurin. I don't know about throwing in Dobbins, but I think you're going to have to sweeten the pot for that deal.
If you have the running back depth to not need J.K. Dobbins, then yes, absolutely. If it's going to leave you thin at running back and you're just trading one pain point for the other, I think I'd rather keep Dobbins around with what this Chargers offense has been able to do here the first 2 weeks. Yes, Mike Evans is going to be flirting with top 12 receiver by the end of the year, but if Dobbins keeps on this track record that he's on, he's going to be flirting with the top 12 running back spot. So it just depends on where you would rather, make your statement if you're going to leave yourself thin at one position over the other. But if you have the depth at running back, go ahead. I'd absolutely do this for Mike Evans.
Yeah, this one's here. This one here is a little bit tougher for me, just from the standpoint that J.K. Dobbins currently the running back number 4 overall in half-point PPR scoring, leading the league in rushing yards as well. So, with this offense, right, between Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, they want to do nothing but run the ball, and that's showcasing there. And so J.K. Dobbins has kind of emerged as the lead back in an offense that just wants to run the ball. So some of that, to kind of echo Kevin's point there, right? Like if this is one of those that you have the depth there, okay, fine. But if you don't, like, that's going to be a kind of a hard pill to swallow, because if J.K. Dobbins continues on this trend, you're talking about a potential top 5 running back and trading for Mike Evans, who will likely be, kind of in that fringe wide receiver 1 type of deal. Right. So there is some trade-offs there, and I'm not necessarily like smash yes on that deal.
It feels though that Dobbins is on an unsustainable path, right? He has rushed for 130 yards in each of the first 2 games, right? So like it feels unsustainable. He's done that against Carolina, who is bad. He did that against Las Vegas, who I think is still trying to figure out their identity. Coming up, I think the schedule tightens up a little bit more for him. I need to check that, but like he's feasted on 2 bad teams, right? And it hasn't been for volume so much as it's been for he's been able to gash those guys, because he did 130 yards against Las Vegas on 10 carries. He did 130 yards against Carolina on 17 carries. And that I think we all can agree is unsustainable. That's an unsustainable workload. So I think right now is the best. If you're going to get rid of Dobbins, I think you can sell him at his highest point right now, because I feel like 130 yards a game is an unsustainable rate that he's on.
You very well may be right there, right? Like is 9.9 yards per attempt is kind of otherworldly, right? But at the same time, right, I don't think that the workload is unsustainable, right? The efficiency, I can agree on that standpoint, but like,
well, what's the workload? It's 27 carries, like
through 2 games, like that's 15 touches a game. That's pretty standard.
Right. But 15 touches a game to get that, like if it was 15 touches a game, and this is all part of the point that you're making, Derek, but it's 15 touches a game, and I would be, you would think that would be 75 or 80 yards, maybe flirting with 100. It's not 130, for 15 touches a game. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there is something to that, but if we see that tick up in, call it 18 touches a game, right? That's a pretty standard workload for a running back there. This is a guy that we've seen average well north of 5 yards per attempt throughout his career. So this very well could be that he gets 18 touches a game, and we see him constantly flirting right around 100 yards a game. And if he gets into the end zone, like that is solid RB1 and upper echelon RB1 territory, which very well could happen. And especially with this offense and how they want to try and run it seemingly through the first couple of weeks, and the track record that both Harbaugh has and Greg Roman has as far as what they look like on running back. So I could see this being the workload being sustainable, but the efficiency. I can agree with you on that one. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, sir.
All righty. Richard, over on YouTube, need an RB2 full point PPR, Aaron Jones or Tony Pollard?
Right,
Tony
I think
Pollard.
At this rate, it's Tony Pollard. Yeah.
Like you go with what you're seeing, right? Tennessee's not throwing the ball entirely well here at the moment. Will Levis did a little bit better in week 2.
I think Will Levis has been memed more times than he has touchdown passes this year, right? Like
it just it is what it is. And I'm not an Aaron Jones truther this year. I'm just not. So I think Minnesota is going to be. They're not going to have many opportunities to play with a true lead. We saw what kind of them shock the world, if you will, against San Francisco, but I don't think that that's necessarily going to be their status quo. So I'm leaning on Tony Pollard right now. He's seen consistent volume here through 2 weeks, even with splitting carries with Tajay, and seemingly is the first guy out of the chute at any given crack. So I'm going to ride with that as Will Levis continues to struggle with the forward pass.
And the backwards pass and the lateral pass and the throw the ball in the dirt and let the other team get it pass.
Yes, all passes.
The other thing that is worth mentioning is that Tony Pollard, and it's full point PPR, right? Is that what he said?
Yes.
Full PPR. Yeah, Tony Pollard's second leading receiver on this team right now. So, I mean, that's he's got 8 catches on 10 targets for 52 yards. So, like, that's all the answer I need.
All right, there we go. Great question, Richard. All righty, let's we're gonna hit up a couple of more, and then we're gonna go ahead and jump into little Pine and Shine recap here, and then we'll come back and hit some more questions. Where was that? All righty. So George Play over on YouTube. Hey guys, just traded away Brian Robinson for Jamison Williams. Thoughts to non-PPR league? And a couple that went up.
Yeah,
he's got DJ Moore and Jalen Waddle as the starters, and Barkley, Gibbs, Mason as the RBs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Take the upside.
You got no problem with that one.
Yep. All righty. And so Millie over on YouTube say, what's up, fellas? Not much, just talking some fantasy here. All in one show. Guys, remember my good lineup? Well, I'm currently 2-0 or 0-2. 0-2. Chase, would you trade Chase for Bijan and Pollard? Need RBs. Currently has Jacobs, Pacheco, Mostert, Ford as the RBs for now.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yes. Do it.
Yes.
Oh, that's so terrible.
Yes.
I have no problem giving up Chase for Bijan and another piece. You're getting RB1 and an RB2 for Jamar Chase. Yes, absolutely.
And by the way, Jamar Chase is wide receiver 4 territory right now this young season. So,
well, I think that'll turn around. Like his games will get better, but just in general, those guys were going side by side in the draft, and we largely think about the same ceiling for both of those guys. But Atlanta has shown that they're absolutely featuring Bijan. They're sprinkling in Algier. They're not necessarily using Algier. And it's more consistent. And with what Atlanta's doing on offense, they want to remain a little bit more balanced and use that play action passing game. Abso-freaking-lutely. Goodbye, Jamar Chase. Welcome in, Bijan.
Okay. And then Terrence chiming in from earlier that Schultz is their only tight end when
Fergie. Yep. Go ahead and get Fergie.
There you go. Alrighty, let's go ahead. We're gonna hit up the Pine and Shine results here from week 2, and then we'll come back and hit up some more comments and questions here in the chat. So the Pine and Shine week 2, right, where we go through every week and look at guys that we think may overperform or underperform on that. And so the Pines are the underperforms and the Shines are the overperforms. And Alex, why don't you go ahead and lead the way on this one?
All right, I'll start with my Pine running back. I went with Joe Mixon, who is projected to finish RB9 and 14.4 points in half-point PPR scoring. And that was a resounding hit, I would say. Joe Mixon finished running back 36, so fringe, and I mean fringe, RB3 territory with 6.5 points. So that was a big gainer for me. Do you want me to do wide receiver too? You want me to keep going?
Yep, go ahead and just rock and roll.
So my Pine wide receiver was Justin Jefferson, who was projected wide receiver 6 with 14.4 points. And that did not hit. He finished wide receiver 7, so that was a plus. He didn't finish where he was supposed to. However, he did score 21.3 points, and it was one stupid long touchdown. I think that really did me in on that. It's a 75-yarder, whatever the hell it was.
The 97-yard.
97-yarder. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that. A 97-yard touchdown is going to ruin a Pine call real quick. But the ref was the most important or the most impressive piece of that touchdown. If you haven't seen it yet, go check out the ref mechanics on that. He was a stud getting into position. Anyways, that one sucked. And then my tight end was Mark Andrews, projected ranked tight end 7. 9.6 was his projected. It was a week for the tight ends, boys, and I meant to bring that up at the start, but the tight ends, they crushed it this week. Mark Andrews was not really one of them that did. He finished tight end 11 with 7.1 points, so that was another net positive for me.
No. For my Pines, I had James Conner, who, called for an underperform there, was just plain wrong on that one, right? He went from projected RB 14 on the week to finish RB 6, so lost a few points there. And then Brock Bowers also, had himself a game, right? Was projected to be tight end 10 on the week. It finished at tight end 3 on the week and lost a few points there. Would have been very interesting to see what would have happened with the AJ Brown call. Had called the shot on that one, ended up going out there, but since it was a DNP, it does not register as any points there. Kevin, how about your Pines?
Yeah, how about my Pines? So I had an atrocious week. It was not going my way. So the Pines, Bijan was the one that I did get right. He was projected to be number 2, ended up at RB 15, only scoring about 14 fantasy points. So that was helpful. I did not see Marvin Harrison going ham against the Rams. Well, he did. So he was projected at 15, came in at wide receiver 1 for the week. So that gave me a bit of a dinger. And then after the show, Evan Ingram in pregame warmups tweaked a hammy. So I got a DNP from Evan Ingram on my Pine category.
All righty. Let's go ahead and hit up the shines there. Alex, go ahead and lead the way.
All right. So for my shines, I'm going to get back to my page here. Sorry. I was scoping on Kevin. All right. So my shines, I picked DeAndre Swift. He was projected running back 26, 10.8 points. He didn't do so good. So he finished running back 37, 6.2 points. That one was a net negative. Where I gained, though, was DK Metcalf, who was projected wide receiver 25 with 11.2 points. He finished wide receiver 2, 23.9. That's a hero call if I ever seen one, which is remarkable given that he is DK Metcalf. But 25 and 2, 11.2, and 23.9 points overall. So that one helped. I was wrong on the tight end. I said Colby Parkinson would need to be more involved there with the LA offense. I think they just needed everything to be more involved with the LA offense. He was projected tight end 15 with 6 points. He finished tight end 39 with 1.7 points. So not so good on the shine calls, but overall positive through 2 weeks.
There you go. My shines, wasn't the best week for me there either, right? Called for Najee to be the shine there, figuring going up against the Denver defense. That one just really didn't come to fruition there. Was RB21 heading into the week, finished at RB29, so lost a few points there. Called for Demarcus Robinson, right, to potentially be kind of that that wide receiver 2 out there in LA was ranked wide receiver 51 going into the week, came out wide receiver 43. So gained a few points there. And then Tyler Conklin. Yep. At this point, Tyler Conklin, we're just going to need to send out the search party for, because has had 0 fantasy relevance so far this week. And that one definitely hurt out there as well. Kevin, how about your shines?
My shine. So Jalen Warren, I was projected at RB 42, finished the week at 33. About right on with the points total, but just the rank finished it up. So did all right there. Josh Palmer had a stinker of the day. I really thought that he might be able to get a little bit of something going against the Panthers, and that was not the case. So he was projected at 43 and ended up at 75. That one hurt. So lost a good chunk there. And Cade Otton was ranked as tight end 19, scored negative 0.4 points, and absolutely crushed me. I mean, between him and Palmer, both just absolutely crushed me for the week. So I had a abysmal week here in week 2. Got to do better.
So currently Alex is leading the way in the positive realm there with the points. Kevin and I are both playing in the negatives, but I have a feeling this week's going to turn around. And for everybody out there kind of wondering, how do I try and navigate some of these? I got some hero calls for guys that are deep plays with potential upside this week. So we'll get to that here in a little bit.
Honestly, though, right now would look like if we all went golfing, this would be right on what our scorecards would look like. I am way up there in the positives. Both of you are dabbling down there in the negatives.
There we go. All right, let's go ahead and head back to the comments and the questions here. Get some questions answered for some folks. Millie Mills over on YouTube. Wide receivers: Amon-Ra, Evans, Cup, Dell, Reed. Need a Cup fill-in. Should I drop a running back and claim a wide receiver, or stick with Dell or Reed and Rick out, especially when Love comes back? It's a good question.
So I think with St. Brown and Evans, you definitely have the anchors there. So I think you stick with Reed or Dell for now, right? So Cup sounds like he is going to return. It's not a season ender, thank goodness. But yeah, we're going to miss him for about the next month. Is suspected to go on the IR here at some point this week. We're going to see if he's getting further tests or how that shakes out. But I don't know that there's any need to panic, because I think St. Brown and Evans will be able to carry that wide receiver room for the most part. And then you need Jaden Reed to, come back to form. But really, you're a week or 2 potentially away from getting Jaden Reed back. So I don't think that there's any need to do that. I think a lot of it just also depends is who's on your waiver wire. Like ultimately, like if we're looking at, Juwan Jennings, I don't know, maybe they got to throw the ball to somebody for a couple weeks while Debo's out, but we think Ayuk's going to suck up a lot of that. So I think your waiver wire is going to be the biggest benchmark of who's going to be viable for you out there.
Yeah, there is a lot of that just comes down to what's available to pick up and try and rock and roll that. But I co-signing with you on that. All right, next question. All in one show: London, Flowers, Waddle, Higgins, wide receiver core, hoping to add DeMarcus Robinson on the waivers. Yeah,
I like that.
Not a bad call. Dub Nation, over on YouTube, who should I drop for Hunter Henry, Jerome Ford, Zach Moss, or Deontay Johnson PPR? I have Laporta, but he's the only weak spot in my lineup. I would not be dropping Zach Moss at this point. He
I'm not dropping any of them.
Yeah,
I'm not dropping any of them. In Laporta, you trust. You felt confident enough to spend probably a third round pick on Sam Laporta. You need to ride this one out. Hunter Henry is not the answer. Laporta will get going. The Lions had a couple interesting first couple games, right? Against the Rams and against the Bucks. Things will open up a little bit. Laporta, while, I don't suspect he's going to be seeing what he did last year. I don't know if he's going to get to his touchdown total. Things will turn back around. So I don't know that you make any change. I think you ride with your lineup here as is, and don't drop any of these guys for Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I think Hunter Henry is the best left for the Evan Ingram owners that are desperate right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that, right? And when you look at it this week too, right? Like Hunter Henry, to just kind of put this back in perspective too, right? Hunter Henry last season, same time, came out the gates really strong, looked really great. All of the superlatives that you want to talk about Hunter Henry and what that looked like through the first 2-3 weeks of the season. And then it was a disappearing act the rest of the season there as well. Not saying that is what's going to happen again, but right, just remember some of those contexts as that kind of rock and rolls through there, right? I think that you're going to see a lot more take place here this week where the Patriots are taking on the Jets. The Jets give up the fewest fantasy points to opposing tight ends of any team in the league, right? Like very, very tough matchup here. And I don't think that, I think when this thing's all said and done, we're going to see Hunter Henry lose a fair bit of traction after this week. And it'll be interesting to see what the narrative kind of turns into here going into week 4. But if I'm between the two, if I've got both of them on my lineup, I'm putting Laporta in there, and I'm not even thinking twice about playing Hunter Henry this week. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, son.
All right. Kels 22 over on YouTube. Would you use your number one waiver priority to pick up JSN or Hunt Samaje Perine? Pick one. Already have Nico, Jamo, Chris Godwin, Kamara, Barkley in a 14-team super flex. The fact that you put together that kind of roster with the 14 team is impressive.
There's more. Scroll down a little bit. Throw a second.
And to add also have Christian Kirk, Xavier Worthy, and Demarcus Robinson for the Rams. Want to drop Kirk since I think I'm stacked if I pick up JSN.
I think you are stacked in a 14 team. I don't know how you pulled this off. Well done. I think Kirk for JSN is viable, especially after we've seen kind of what JSN can be. Keep in mind, we've also seen what JSN can be in week 1, where he was virtually non-existent. I don't know that I'm ready to use my number one waiver wire priority when it's not a desperate position of need.
Yeah, honestly, with what you do, I would drop Demarcus Robinson and pick JSN up.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds funky, but I think we're going to just see a completely different Rams offense, and we're not going to see him hyper focused on any one player. You're going to see Whittington get some. You're going to see Tutu Atwell get some. You're going to see Tyler Johnson get some. You're going to see Demarcus Robinson get some. I think you're going to see Kyron be used out of the back. Obviously, they have Cody Parkinson. There's a number of different guys where I think it's just going to get sprinkled around. It's going to be like the Chiefs of last year. Like, they lost their guys and now they have Jags, and so they're just going to have to use that. So if you're going for just stacking the bank, I would pick up JSN and drop Demarcus Robinson if you are dead set on using your top waiver wire priority. Yeah. I don't think Hunt or Samaje are...
They're not long-term. That's not a long-term solution. JSN has season-long potential.
Yeah, JSN you'll use for the season, and it'll be interesting to see how they do with Cameron Steele, Samaje, bringing Hunt back in. Like, I'm interested to see what the Chiefs are going to do, and with what the weapons that they have, I think Xavier Worthy becomes extremely valuable. You already have him on your roster. Maybe we finally see Travis Kelce kind of emerge here a little bit, and using him a bit more since they're not going to lean on the run game as much. But I mean, it's terrible as it is. You don't ever want to see a guy break his leg and have to deal with that. But this is nothing but gold for Patrick Mahomes owners. Like, this just essentially says, okay, we're going to drop back 45 times a game. Here we go.
Yeah. Alrighty. Dub Nation saying need one for flex, Waddle, Pickens, or Brian Thomas Jr.
I'm going Pickens. Like, as crazy as it is, I think right now Fields might be the best quarterback of that group. Trevor Lawrence is not playing well. The passing game for Jacksonville has been atrocious here for the first couple weeks. So I'm not willing to bank on Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, or Brian Thomas Jr. But George Pickens does continue to get fed. Like, Justin Fields is trying to find his guy, much like he did, probably to a lesser extent due to play calling, but much like he did with DJ Moore in Chicago. So I'm going Pickens for a flex play out of this group.
Yeah. And I think it all comes down to the quarterback play for me as well, right? Like, I don't trust what the Dolphins are going to do this week coming up. Same thing too with Jacksonville, right? Like, that's been a mixed bag throughout, and so I'm just I'm leery of that one. So I'll jump on that bandwagon with you, Kevin, and call for George Pickens as well. All right, Tingley over on YouTube. Is it worth using waiver wire number 1 on Quentin Johnson, Braylon, or one of the Chiefs backs? I got Kyler, Saquon, Rashad White, Bucky, Tracy, Gus, Rice, Garrett Wilson, Debo, Jamo, DeMarcus, AD, and AD Mitchell. Probably wouldn't be going after one of the running backs there with that. And I don't know that I'm necessarily as big a fan of Quentin Johnson on this one. I don't know. What are our thoughts here?
Cameron Steele. If you're going for one, I'm going for Cameron Steele. Like, the fans rally around this kid. Like, there's something about it. And Chiefs fans in general are not unintelligent football people. Like, they know good football when they see it. They've had good running backs throughout the organization, right? I mean, just years and years of existence, decades of existence. Like, they've seen good football players roll through there, and they get excited over this kid, right? Is it the pet crocodile? Is it the flowing gold locks? Who knows? But they rally around him and they get energized. And he'd been seeing reps. So it is not like he already understands the playbook. He's already kind of doing the right things. And I think he's going to get a crack more so than Kareem Hunt. I think Hunt is an insurance policy. I think Samaje's there for pass pro. He'll might catch a couple more passes out of the backfield. But if you're talking first and second down work, maybe goal line work, I think it's Steele who's going to be the guy who's seeing those touches between the 20s.
The report that I read, and I think it was on Sleeper, so that's who they're pulling from, says that Steele is going to be the number 1, in air quotes, the number 1 back there for Kansas City. So I think of the workload, it's going to be Steele. Now, does that translate to fantasy production? I don't know. We'll find out. But I think the opportunity is Steele. So, like, your upside is Steele. If you're going to go after one of the Chiefs backs, I don't know that you necessarily need to. If you need to start 3 running backs, like, you've got enough. If you need, I don't know that you need Quentin Johnson in a run heavy offense. I know the Debo injury hurts, but I think
Well, it just starts messing with bye weeks too,
Yeah.
right? And that's the thing about catching these in week 3 is you start hitting bye weeks here in a couple weeks and
Yeah, that's true.
everything else. But I mean, having Rashee Rice, Garrett Wilson, and JMO, right, with being able to flex to DeMarcus isn't a terrible thing, right? So I think you're okay at wide receiver until Debo gets back. You already have the Bucky option for Rashad White, which I think is a good thing in case this groin injury that he picked up becomes more troublesome than what early reports are. So I do think it's a running back. And, you know, Braylon, yes, he had a good game for the Jets, but, you know, I just Brees still got his touchdown, right? Like Brees is still being used all over the field, and he's clearly number 2. If you have an opportunity to get number 1 and give yourself at least a little bit of wiggle at the running back position, because Tracy and Gus right now are not those guys. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Let's go ahead and head on into the next one. TZ Inch. I know I butchered that one, but my apologies over on YouTube. Made a risky one, boys. Traded Justin Jefferson and JMO for Chase and Garrett Wilson. Full PPR. Thoughts?
I don't hate this. Like, I think combined, you probably have a safer floor with Chase and Wilson. Chase does provide a good amount of upside. JMO obviously has been, from where his baseline is, probably has the greatest upside, but just in general, you expect the Bengals to get stronger once T. Higgins comes back and they're not solely focused in on Chase. So I think that'll help. I think as Aaron Rodgers continues to get back in game shape from this Achilles, I think him and Garrett Wilson are going to continue to work well together. So I don't mind this trade. Like, I think he went from a 1 and a 3, possibly 2, to 2 1s. So I don't think that this is a bad deal for you.
Yeah. I think this is one of those that as the season goes through, right? Like you definitely kind of bought low on Chase and Wilson and sold a little high on JMO. So I don't mind it. And it's one of those that it could pay off down the stretch. Any other thoughts on this one? This one made me giggle, but Sean over on YouTube said Malik Willis is the same quarterback as Lamar Jackson with less turnovers. We'll just agree to disagree.
I think Sean is trolling us.
Very well could be. We'll just agree to disagree. All righty. FBU, welcome back in, FBU. Would you trade Baker Mayfield and Amari Cooper for Josh Allen?
Oh, that's tough. I think I stand pat with Baker. I like Baker's weapons more than I like what Josh Allen has.
This is tough, right? Because it's
really tough. It's very tough.
When it comes down to it, right? Josh Allen will likely be a top 4 fantasy quarterback when it's all said and done, right? Like the rushing upside gets him there and gets him into that conversation. Baker, and we all know how much I pound the table for Baker and am, Baker apologist, right? But this is one of those that Baker having a really good season puts him in QB 10 type of range, maybe up to QB 9 on a really, really fantastic year, QB 8, right? But there's a big difference in total points season long between QB 4 and even QB 8 at that point. So I don't know. As much as I want to say no, I would rather stick with the Baker side of things. I have a hard time not leaning the other way.
I'll say it. No.
All right.
No. I mean, personally, like, yes, Amari Cooper has started slow, but if they start to find their rhythm a little bit in Cleveland, and Amari Cooper just puts up low-end wide receiver 2 numbers, right? That's where you drafted him. So if he just returns value and does nothing else and just gets back to that consistency of being able to put up, 12 or 13 points a game, what he's doing plus what Baker's doing is greater than what Josh Allen will do by himself. So unless you have the bench strength, right? And again, not knowing the rest of your roster, if you feel like Amari Cooper is that expendable and you're not going to be hurt at wide receiver with the plethora of wide receiver injuries that are going on right now, then okay, fine. Like, I'm not going to argue with you for wanting Josh Allen. He is the best player in the deal. I'm just simply, from all the injuries right now, we got no Puka, we got no Cooper Kupp, we got no Debo. Justin Jefferson has a quad. We're not quite sure. AJ Brown has a hamstring. Tyreek lost Tua. Jalen Waddle lost Tua. We've yet to see Garrett Wilson really bust out. Like, we've the list of wide receiver issues goes on and on right now.
Same thing with Ayuk, right? Have yet to have an Ayuk sighting. Have yet to have an Olave sighting.
Right.
So Drake London had a ho-hum Monday night game.
Yeah. So I don't know that I would do this. Like, I'm not going to fault you for doing it. It is not that clear cut and dry. I don't know that I'm doing that with all the injuries that we're seeing already and wanting to be able to have that depth and be able to pivot and have options this early in the season to navigate bye weeks and the injuries and lineup decisions and everything else. I don't know that I want to give up a flex or number 3, number 2 wide receiver, depending on how your league construct is, just to have the best quarterback who, as we saw last week, is human, right? He didn't have to do anything. James Cook did it all. And Joe Brady has been using a lot of James Cook since he took over last year. Like, James Cook is a top 10 back since Joe Brady took over as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, fair enough. All righty. Let's go ahead and head on to the next one here. We've got what is that? Slapski. That's what we're gonna go with. I'm glad you're helping with these pronunciations tonight. Over on YouTube, 12-man PPR, 2 flex spots. Bench has Spears, McLaughlin, Demarcus Robinson, T. Higgins, Dortch, Dalton Schultz. Available: Dwaddle, Hunt, Steele, Braylon Allen, Thielen, Sutton, Johnson, Quentin Johnston, Alec Pierce, and Jawan. Who are we dropping? Who are we picking up? Also, Samaje is available as well. And the starting lineup is Kyler, Henry, Brian Robinson Jr., CD, Nico, McBride, Devontae Smith, Demarcus Robinson / T. Higgins. A guy that
I'm digesting all of this.
Right. One of the names that you put out there that has really kind of stood out to me, that is flying under a lot of people's radars right now is Alec Pierce, the wide receiver for the Colts. And this is one of those that's, it may be worth a kind of a stash there and just kind of see how that goes, right? We've seen 2 top 20 finishes both weeks of the young fantasy season. He is he's second on the team in targets. He's leading the team in receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. Like, there's some sort of connection between him and Anthony Richardson. So I don't know that I would spend much of a waiver priority on that one, but definitely worth a shot on that one. And it could be worth something there, right? Like, I wouldn't have a problem swapping out Dortch for Alec Pierce.
To go along with that, I wouldn't have any heartburn about getting rid of Jaleel McLaughlin and picking up Cameron Steele.
Right. I'd rather have Dwaddle over McLaughlin at this point.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah. Alex, any thoughts on that one?
I co-sign on both of those. If you're looking to improve at receiver, I think that Pierce over Dortch Feels right, especially if Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be kind of a ball hog that we have seen, right? And then, man, this Broncos offense is so sad. But yeah, Jaleel McLaughlin is probably not it in Denver. So,
right. And if you wanted to take the shot on Quentin Johnston over Schultz, I wouldn't mind that either, right? With the fact that you've got McBride as your starting tight end as well, right? Like on a 12-person deal tight end, if you really need a streamer, you can pick those up off the waiver wire too. So that could be a potential deal there, just to kind of see if this was the outlier or if this was the beginning of something. Beginning of something for Johnston, but I'm not putting a lot of stock into that one. Any other thoughts on this?
Mm.
All right. Ezekiel over on YouTube, Carr or Darnold? At this point, it's got to be Carr.
yeah.
And Alex, this one is like right up your alley.
This is not an original thought by me. I actually saw it from somebody, but evidently in presidential election years, Derek Carr becomes an otherworldly quarterback. So being that it is a presidential election year, and we've already seen him drop a 40 spot on both of his first two opponents, give me that weird conspiracy theory that Derek Carr loves a presidential election, and let me ride that weird conspiracy theory all the way to the bank.
So I would agree on the Derek Carr over Sam Darnold's thoughts. Kevin, any differing viewpoints?
No, I was just looking at the Saints schedule here coming up, and they really
it tightens up.
Well, it does. The Saints stays okay though. They got Philly this week, Atlanta the week after that, then Kansas City. You figure that's going to be a bit of a shootout there in KC. Then Tampa Bay, Denver, Chargers, Carolina, Atlanta. I mean,
Denver games in Denver on Thursday. It looks like a Thursday night game.
No, it's a home game.
Oh, excuse me. You're right.
It's in New Orleans. So I don't mind Carr's schedule. Like, I really don't. I think it's absolutely viable. There's nothing wrong here with going Carr over Darnold with the way that these offenses are playing right now.
All right. I like it. FBU over on the YouTube. Would you trade Goff, Amari, and Kobe Parkinson for McBride?
Pretty much. I would do Goff and Parkinson for McBride. Like, you don't need I don't know about this 3-for-1 thing. Like,
yeah,
this taking advantage of a tight end. Like, what again? Surface level. No, I'm not doing 3-for-1 trades. Like, so you already have Baker, right? Based off your other question, I'm assuming this is the same league. You already have Baker. You're looking at getting Josh Allen, possibly. If not, maybe McBride. Like, I don't know. I guess I'd be more willing to do the McBride deal than the Allen deal, as crazy as that sounds. But I think a lot of that's just because how sparse I feel like tight ends truly been this year.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of the 3-for-1. But yeah, I'd see if you couldn't whittle that down and try and get a Goff and Parkinson for McBride. Alrighty. Marlon over on YouTube. Welcome in, Marlon. Should I drop Bucky Irving for Braylon Allen? I would not.
I would not either.
Alrighty. So,
again, like, there's no signs. I think Bucky for the season is going to end up better than Braylon Allen. Again, 1 week. He's a backup running back who played, who just put himself in the right spot. But if we're looking at, hold on. Let's see what his snap share was, because I don't remember off the top of my head. It's not something I keep. Game log. 35% of snaps. That's it. He had 7 attempts. He ran one in and caught one on 2 receptions. Like, this is touchdown dependency written all over. He's vulturing touchdowns. We should be more pissed off as Brees Hall owners than we are excited about Braylon Allen. In my opinion, it just, I'm not doing this. I think, again, the groin issue with Rachaad White is something to monitor. They're saying it's minor, but how many of these minor injuries have been reported on, and then they turn out being more than that, and all of a sudden a guy's on IR already this season?
Right.
Like we saw it with McCaffrey. We got that feeling with Debo. Puka babied this knee thing, and then he went out. Like, even Jordan Love, they're like, oh no, we're not going to put him on IR, and then they just sit him out right there at the last minute. Like, we knew Jordan Love wasn't going to play, but still, these teams are finding all sorts of ways to not be forthcoming of injury reports this season. And don't let yourself get caught up in it. Like, I'm going to keep Bucky Irving over Braylon Allen, unless you're a Brees Hall owner. If you are a Brees Hall owner, then yes.
Cosign. Any other thoughts? FBU asking Hunter Henry or Kobe Parkinson. I'm gonna
Henry.
Yeah, I'm not excited about that, especially with the matchup this week with the Jets. But I'm gonna reluctantly say yes. Any other thoughts?
I like Henry this week. That's all I'm going to add. I think it's because it's the Jets. I think that Brissett's going to have to get the ball out quicker. I think Hunter Henry is a good receiving option. So I like Hunter Henry this week. Look, Kobe Parkinson burned me last week, so I'm a little gun shy with him.
Fair enough. All righty, let's hit up the let's go ahead and hit up here the Thursday night breakdown here and the Thursday night game. Hit that up. We'll come back and hit some more comments and more questions in the chat. So week 3, the Thursday night football, we've got New England heading to square off against the New York Jets. The Jets are favored 7.5, over under in this one, 38.5. Thoughts on this game?
Oh, Kevin, you go first.
I'm taking New England to cover. Jets win, New England covers. I think I'm going to take the under. Like, I don't see New England scoring very many points. The Jets offense has been one week and then okay another, right? So I think there's still some up in the air about that. But ultimately, I think the Jets want to run the ball, right? They're not asking Rodgers to throw the ball 35 times a game. They want him to throw it 25 to 28 times a game, and that's perfectly fine. But I just don't see this game screaming towards points. It's a Thursday night game, which traditionally are lower point totals in general. The division rivalry, all the things that just kind of feed into the unders. So that's exactly where I'm going to go. I'm going to take New England to cover, but I'm going to take the under.
All righty.
All right. I'm going to take the Jets to cover the 7.5. I am going to root for the over, and my prop will be Rodgers under 31.5 pass attempts. So I think it's big plays that get us there.
Okay, I like it. I'm going to go with New England, though. I do think that this is one of those that New England has shown that they're able to keep games close and stick within games, and I don't see that really changing here, right? Like I think the Jets have kind of underwhelmed so far, and until they really can show that their defense is stacked up to where they were coming in from last year, as well as that offense, kind of lives up to the billing that we had coming into the season. New England has certainly kind of surprised here early on, and I think that continues. I'm going to go with the under, though, right? This is one where both teams, I think, this is going to be a struggle to put points on the board here. But I do think that we see Jacoby Brissett find a way to get over 165.5 passing yards. That number just seems incredibly low. Wouldn't surprise me if we look up and see Jacoby Brissett closer to about 190 passing yards when it's all said and done. Any other thoughts on this game?
So I actually wanted to take Jacoby Brissett, like the original line or the original prop that I wanted to take, and then I saw what you put in. You got there first, and I didn't want to rain on your parade, Derek. I was going to take Jacoby Brissett under. I saw 167.5 passing yards, and the reason why is because Jacoby Brissett has not hit 167.5 passing yards yet this season, and he's going up against a pretty stout Jets defense. So he is averaging 135 yards passing per game. So I hope you get it right, but the prop that I wanted to take was under 167.5 passing yards for Jacoby Brissett, because I think this Jets defense is real, and he hasn't done it yet. And I don't know that they've played teams that are better than the Jets defensively with Cincinnati and Seattle.
That's fair. And for everybody that was just asking, should they start Hunter Henry? Remember all the points that Alex just made.
I know. I like him better this week. I think he gets the most targets this week. Now, I think that he gets the most targets out of the 15 times that New England throws the football. He probably gets it 7, but yeah.
There we go.
Or the 15 times that Jacoby Brissett has enough time to scan the field for somebody to throw it to.
Yeah, I could see it. All righty. Any other thoughts on this game? Now, all right, let's go ahead and head back to the questions in the comments here. Millie Mills over on the YouTube, kind of following up on that question from earlier. With the running backs, he's got Henry, Kamara, Stevenson, and Tajay. So stick with Reed and Dell and wait it out for Cup.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what we had settled on.
Yeah, I would agree with that, right? Like Stevenson, Kamara, both top 10 running backs at this point. And Henry, I think the best is yet to come this season. So, all righty. Terry, welcome back in, Terry, over on the YouTube. Pittman or Alec Pierce, which would y'all prefer?
Preseason, I think we all absolutely would have smashed Pittman. I think through 2 weeks, you have to pay attention to what Alec Pierce is doing. As crazy as that sounds. So, at this moment, I think it has to be Pierce. Pittman has not shown, for whatever reason, that this is going to be as good of a connection with Richardson as we thought it was.
Yeah.
So he's still on the field, though. I mean, 89% of the snaps, 86% of the snaps, but then finishes wide receivers 61 and 72 for Michael Pittman. I mean, it's for whatever reason, it is not working well here for him at the moment.
Right. I wonder if Alec Pearson and Anthony Richardson have like a breakfast club thing going.
Maybe, right? And I think part of Pierce's numbers, realistically, right? Week 1, 3 for 3 for 125 and a touchdown, like hyper efficient.
Yeah.
Came back down to earth a little bit, but if he's 5 out of 7 for 56 and a tutty, that is more in the lines of, I think, what we can expect with or without the touchdown, right? I think you're going to see in that neighborhood of 50-ish yards, maybe 60, 65 yards consistently. Maybe he pops one, right? That's the upside that we like to have. And I hate to break it to everybody, but Alec Pierce is not going to be scoring 17 touchdowns this season, right? He is not going to average a touchdown a game. Both of the players are on the field a substantial amount. Pierce, week 1, 84% snap share. Week 2, 95% snap share. Incredibly high for Alec Pierce. So, I mean, maybe it's finally clicking, right? He fought the injury bug a little bit last year. It didn't quite work well with Richardson going down, but I mean, maybe we are seeing something here, and at least he can be a wide receiver 3 option, even though to start the year he's, ridiculously efficient.
Right. Well, and right with that, right, was on the field a ton this last week. Also, those 7 targets were tied for the team lead in targets. Right, like he and so there is something going on there that like you said is very much worth keeping an eye on and paying attention to. Terry over on YouTube too asking Donta got 14 carries in red zone work while Ford only got 9 carries. Panic time for Ford. Secondly, got Cam Akers. Do we know the status of Mixon's ankle injury?
I mean, panic for Jerome Ford. We saw some weird things out of him last year too, right? Like he'd have games with high usage and all of a sudden it'd drop down and kind of go from there. I think part of it's just how Cleveland kind of messes with people who aren't Nick Chubb. It's not a bad idea, right? If you're struggling for running back help, to be able to throw him in there in a flex spot if you have to, right? There's some people who are going to have to play him this week because that's just the best option they have. So red zone work is always nice. Part of it is the Browns offensive flow. Like they're just not a good offensive football team here at the moment. So they got to get some things figured out. And then as far as the Cam Akers deal, I mean, they're saying the injury's minor. Obviously, he went back into the game Monday night. We're going to see how sore it is. I'm sure he went in, got treatment today. Tomorrow's the off day. Went in and got treatment today. As they had the day off to recover, they'll get back to the grind tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be anything long term. Didn't sound or feel like anything that was going to cause him to be down for any substantial time. But if you're a Joe Mixon owner, maybe you do look at Cam Akers here a little bit just to have a little bit of protection, especially with Dameon Pierce having his own hamstring injury and being unavailable. So
right.
It's not sexy, but it protects yourself a little bit. And sometimes you just have to do that.
Right. And I know that there was reports that Mixon was going in to get an MRI, things like that. And then afterwards, those reports were, missed major injury, but haven't really seen anything much more than that as well. All righty. Terry asking Tampa Bay defense special teams versus Denver or the Bills defense special teams against the hapless Jags.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, pick one. I think the Bills defense has been playing extremely well this year. Obviously, Denver's offense has been rather anemic here through 2 games. I don't think you can go wrong here either way. I might give the slight lean to Tampa Bay only because Bo Nix has thrown 2 interceptions each of his first 2 games. So maybe you get a little bit more of that turnover upside than what we're seeing from Trevor Lawrence, but not by a whole bunch, right? And remember, I think the Bills have a little revenge here too because the Jags beat them in London last year, right? In a game that I know all 3 of us said the Bills were going to walk in there and kind of smoke them, and Jacksonville handed it to them a little bit. So I don't think Buffalo forgot that. So there might be a little bit of a revenge game, or at least people who, look, don't let down. We saw what they did to us last year, 60 minutes, let's go type deal.
I like it. All righty. And then Jordan over on YouTube saying, sup, good old boys. Not much. We're rocking and rolling through some fantasy and helping folks out, getting those things ready to go for this weekend. But we're going to take a moment here, take a shameless plug, so to speak. If you're watching this thing, wherever you're watching it, if you can do us a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. All those good things certainly helps out there. All right. Let's go ahead and head to the next one here. We got Dub Nation over on YouTube. Pick 3, James Conner, Jordan Mason, J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson, or Jerome Ford. Full PPR.
Connor and Mason are the absolute yeses for me. Everything in my being says take Travis Etienne, but J.K. Dobbins is on a tear right now.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm torn. The easy sits, right? We're going to eliminate 2. I'm going to eliminate 2. I'm not going to speak for you guys. I'm going to eliminate 2 right away. No on Ford, no on Stevenson this week. Okay. So we're going to take that down to, 4 out of we need 3 out of the 4. James Conner, Mason, Dobbins. So again, Dobbins has been hyper efficient. Gus Edwards had 18 carries last week. Right? Only 58 yards. He's not being efficient with it, but he had 18 touches. Like that scares me a little bit. ETN's usage picked up a little bit from week 1, which is a good thing. And Buffalo just gave up a crap ton of yards to Devon Achane last Thursday night. So if you're Jacksonville, you got to think, okay, if they're going to sit in the same too high safety look that they gave to Miami, and it's probably going to be a little different. I don't think they're as worried about the explosives for Jacksonville as they were Miami. I think that absolutely breeds to a lot of ETN. The Chargers, conversely, are not scaring anybody deep. So you got to think here by week 3, you're going to see extra players in the box trying to force the issue with a pretty unproven wide receiver group there in LA with the Chargers. So statistics tell us J.K. Dobbins, because that's what we have season to date. My gut tells me Travis Etienne over J.K. Dobbins. So it's Connor, Mason, Etienne.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning there as well, right? Like it's Connor, it's Mason, and actually, if I'm ranking these guys and kind of going through it, right? Like Mason this week would be number 1. I would look at James Conner being the number 2. I'd have Travis Etienne slightly behind James Conner, and then I'd have J.K. Dobbins a little bit further down the list there. But that is a phenomenal problem to have when you're looking at that kind of running back depth on a team where you're literally looking at 4 or 5 guys that are top 20 backs, top 24 backs on a week in, week out basis there. So any other thoughts on this one? All right. Daniel Caps over on YouTube. How's this trade Achane St. Brown for Taylor, DK Metcalf, and MHJ? Kyler is the QB.
I don't hate it. I'm trying to decide if I love it, but I definitely don't hate it. Jonathan Taylor not playing in the 4th quarter last week kind of scares the crap out of me a little bit. But I think you can deal with that, especially if you needed some depth at wide receiver. I think it solves that problem. Getting
Right.
DK and Marvin Harrison Jr. You can pair it up with Kyler, which is nice to have. There's nothing wrong with that. So, yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to this, especially if you need wide receiver depth. This absolutely foots the bill, and now you have 2. You have a number 2 and a flex at worst case scenario at wide receiver.
Yep, I like it. Any other thoughts?
Nah.
Thoughts on this trade? I give so Marlon over on YouTube. Thoughts on this trade? I give Nick Chubb and receive Jordan Mason and Brian Thomas Jr.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love Nick Chubb, but there's no guarantee, right, that he's coming back in week 6. Right? There's no guarantee he's coming back in week 8. There's also no guarantee that once Christian McCaffrey comes back, that they're not going to split this workload here a little bit to try and preserve McCaffrey for the playoff run. So I think Jordan Mason absolutely stays active in this Niners offense. Again, I suspect that Jacksonville's passing game will eventually come back to life here. And Brian Thomas Jr. will absolutely be a key part of that once it gets up and running. So I don't mind this. I mean, gives you a starting running back right now and a flex possibility for both players as we get later into the season.
Right. I like it. All righty. FBU, I have over on YouTube, I have Joe Mixon, and any news if he is playing, should I get Akers, and also have a Hall, should I get Braylon Allen?
So I wouldn't get both Akers and Allen. I would rather have Allen over Akers if you're going to look to handcuff one or the other. Right now, MRIs were negative on Joe Mixon. It looks like it's just a sore ankle. We could find out more come Friday. And as we get into it, but for the sake of the waiver wires, if you need to put a bid in on one of these two guys to handcuff your running back situation, season long, I think I'd rather have Braylon Allen as a handcuff and really protect the team that's going to run the ball more than having Joe Mixon, who's just as hot as Breece Hall is right now. But Houston has 3 dynamic receivers that they can throw to at any given time, and the Jets just don't have that. That's not how they're playing offense this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Alrighty, so Daniel Caps over on YouTube saying this still has Ramondre Pollard, Monty, Rashad White, Mason, but giving up Achane for St. Brown and St. Brown for Jonathan Taylor. I mean, looking at your depth there, it makes me say smash yes even more.
Yeah, I'd agree.
All right, Millie Mills over on YouTube saying that they're still waiting on a Dell sighting. So, yep, I can understand that one.
Told you not to draft him.
That's true. We certainly did touch on that one. All right, Jim over on YouTube. Achane, Ridley, Chubb for Tyreek, Swift, Coleman, 14-team PPR. Team outside of Lamar. My team outside of this: Lamar, Puka, Devontae, Adams, Kincaid, Mason, 3 wide receiver, 1 running back, 1 flex, no tight end requirements. Thoughts on the Achane, Ridley, Chubb for Tyreek, Swift, Coleman?
I think I would rather have the Achane, Ridley, Chubb side of things. You have a featured, in quotes, back in Miami. You have the number 1 receiver. I mean, it's the number 1 receiver on a bad offense, but it's the number 1 receiver.
And a running back that's not playing.
Yeah, and a running back that's not playing. Versus a number 1 receiver with similar situation, right? Tyreek, we don't know what that team's going to look like now with their quarterback situation. DeAndre Swift is
just 4, and that's the biggest thing, right? Is it just 4 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? Is it
right.
the season? Like, we have no idea what is going on, what the neurologists are going to see, and what they're going to tell Tua and advise for him. Like, I am not looking to take on Tyreek Hill right now in a trade like that. Like I do not see you coming out ahead. Like, I would much rather keep Achane, Ridley, Chubb, who Achane started out really good. Ridley's the number 1, and we know Chubb will come back at some point this season. Coleman, there's, again, rookie wide receiver. We don't really know what to expect. He wasn't involved last Thursday, but didn't need to be.
The Bears offense.
Tyreek is not the Tyreek that was being selected at 2 or 3 overall on draft day. And Swift, this Chicago offense does not look overly exciting here at the moment, while Caleb Williams is trying to figure out life in the NFL.
Right. So,
and all the rookies are, right. It's not a Caleb Williams thing. I mean, hell, Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, they're trying to do that. I mean, one could argue that, Daniel Jones is still trying to figure out life in the NFL, and he's on his 2nd contract.
Well, and I won't even bring up Bryce Young, but
who's benched, by the way, right?
He gone.
Something we didn't talk about.
The Red Rocket. I'm surprised no one's like looking for
Yeah, Andy Dalton.
Super flex. Well, just a super flex option, right?
Right.
I think Andy Dalton's a better pickup than Skylar Thompson or Brett Hundley. Like, give me Andy
You're not
Dalton.
wrong. You're not wrong.
I'd agree. I'd rather have Andy
I
Dalton.
think I'd rather have an Andy Dalton over a Daniel Jones at this point. Like, there are pieces in place there in Carolina, right? Like, there's Bryce Young just couldn't figure it out. Just can't figure it out.
All righty. And then Jordan over on YouTube, standard scoring has Allen, Gibbs, Mason, Metcalf, Rice, Kelsey, Najee. The bench is Javonte, Ford, Singletary, Cooper, Odunze, McConkey, Shakir. Drop anyone to add any of the Kansas City running backs, Braylon, Pierce, or Demarcus Robinson. Can keep one veteran, one rookie. Don't feel like they have anybody droppable there.
I don't think you need to do anything.
Yeah, the keeper thing is what keeps me on a Odunze. If you didn't put that, I'd tell you to drop a Odunze. But the fact that you can keep him where I believe he will be much more valuable next year as everyone kind of figures things out. I think I'd much rather have it that way. So yeah, I think you stand pat. I really do. Gibbs, Mason, Najee, Javonte, Ford / Singletary. I think your running back room is good enough.
Right.
And then I like Metcalf a lot this year. Rashee Rice has been balling out, which is a good thing. And Shakir hasn't been bad. Again, they didn't need to throw the ball a whole hell of a lot on Thursday. So I think we can take a lot of that passing offense from Buffalo and throw it out the window from week 2. Like, it's just not what they're going to see most weeks. James Cook had an amazing week, and Miami had no answer for it. And Josh Allen just didn't have to do much, right? He didn't have to play Superman and run it in. He didn't have to drive the ball down the field. He just had to hit the open guy a couple times and move the chains. Like, that's it.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd agree. The only thing that I would potentially look at, and this is more of a dart throw type of thing, would be potentially McConkey for Alec Pierce, but that's not something that I'm super gung ho about either. So that would be the only.
Yeah.
That would be the only potential move. Yeah. So that'd be the only potential, but I'm not very confident in that one.
Yeah, I think you stay put.
All right, there we go. All righty. So Chris over on YouTube got
hit hard. He meant hit hard.
Okay, got hit hard at wide receiver by the injury bug. That makes a lot more sense. Thank you, Alex. Lost A.J. Brown and Debo. Got Nico and playing DeMarcus Robinson at wide receiver 2. Should I ride with DeMarcus Robinson or work a trade for a wide receiver 2? Got good running back depth with Jonathan Taylor, Devon A. Chan, Derrick Henry, Mason, and B-Rob.
So it would not be. I think you have a couple different options. I think you can take Jordan Mason and look at the wide receivers on the McCaffrey owners team and see if you can cherry pick who he has. I think you want to, for Jordan Mason, I think you want to look at a DK Metcalf, a Mike Evans, possibly Chris Godwin. Like, Chris Godwin's going to be a real deal this year with how they're using him in Tampa Bay. So don't sleep on Godwin from just a PPR standpoint. So I think those would be 3 key guys that I would look at. Brian Robinson Jr., I think you can look at it a couple different ways. I don't know. I don't think I'd feel bad about tossing Brian Robinson out for like Christian Kirk. Right? You're not going to play Brian Robinson Jr. You're not going to. So if you're looking for wide receiver help, again, Jacksonville's offense, this is the buy low part, right? You're buying low on Christian Kirk. Brian Robinson Jr. for Kirk isn't outrageous. I think you could do something like that. Another thing for Mason, Rashee Rice, right? Like you could look at Rashee Rice for Jordan Mason with what he's doing. So I think you have options. Obviously, Mason will warrant a better wide receiver than Brian Robinson Jr. will. So it's nice having Nico, but it's just kind of how you want to pair him up, if you will. So if you needed, if you feel like you need another really strong wide receiver 2, then you're probably looking to flip Mason for one of those guys that I mentioned. If you feel like you're just wanting a guy to, step in and be able to play the matchups against Demarcus Robinson, you can flip Brian Robinson Jr. and look at picking up, lesser, if you will, options.
I like it. Alrighty. Faked in over on YouTube asking Laporta or Bowers
this week or season long would be my question. If it's, I think it might be Bowers. Like they're feeding him. Laporta is not being fed yet. Bowers is absolutely a center point in this offense already, as they're trying to get the ball out of Gardner Minshew's hands. So I'm not opposed to playing Bowers over Laporta going forward here until we see something different out of Detroit.
Right. Well, and Bowers and the Raiders have a really good strength of schedule, kind of rest of season, as well for the matchups against the tight ends. So there is some positive things there as well. FBU over on YouTube saying that so their team is Dak, Baker, Goff, Hall, Mixon, Zeke, Chase Brown, Benson, Garrett Wilson, Evans, Neighbors, Ferguson, Colby Parkinson. Who you aim for on the waiver wire, or am I good?
Okay, so now I'm starting to see some of these trade offers that you're talking about and why. Okay, so I would see if there's a team. Maybe you could get like Goff for like Ramondre Stevenson. Right? Like I don't think between Dak and Baker, you're fine. Like you definitely do not need to go with this pairing of Amari Cooper and everything else. So and I think that's the one name I'm not seeing on here. And that's who he kept tossing out in trades.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is the same. I'm assuming this is the same roster based off of your previous questions. So if I'm mistaken, I apologize, but Dak and Baker both is leading me in that direction. But I'd look at like a Goff for like a Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, you don't need a lot, but having an insurance policy for Mixon, who's going to see a little bit more volume than Zeke, is kind of where I'd be looking at, possibly Rachaad White. Just depending on how that owner's roster is set up, but I think that's probably a little bit of a taller task. Ramondre's a lesser known quantity. And with having Trey Benson, seeing what the James Conner owner might want isn't a bad thing also.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple options here. Having Evans and Ferguson, I don't think you need Parkinson. You don't need 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends. You need wide receiver and running back depth now. So now it's trying to find ways to do it. So yeah. But yeah, that's what I'd look at. I'd initially look at running back. So Stevenson, James Conner, see if they need a quarterback. Maybe they're the Jordan Love owner. Maybe they're the Tua owner. And need some options here. And I think you can provide those. So I would definitely be looking at those 2 teams and seeing what they're looking at for skill position players and trying to flip Jared Goff over to them. But that would be the quarterback I'd look to move. I want to keep Dak and Baker to have as much flexibility at quarterback as possible.
I like it. All right, let's go ahead and hit up this one. Camden over on YouTube got Shroud, Gibbs, Ramondre, ETN, Chase, Nico Collins, Waddle, and McBride. Does Waddle have any value?
Yes, it's just less than before, right? Waddle was Waddle was a bottom end wide receiver 2 to middle end to middle wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside, and now he is a wide receiver 3, middle to lower end wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 upside, right? Like he just dropped. It's here. But yes, he still has value. We got to see how this plays out. Like, don't give him up for nothing. Don't put him out on the waiver wire. We need more information on Tua before we react to this. It's the downside of drafting Miami skill position players when we all knew Tua had a concussion history. Unfortunately, it came about in week 2 after he was able to get through last year without any setbacks. So for now, you just have to hold pat here and see where the information lands. But I would absolutely keep Waddle around unless you get a really good trade offer for him, and then you can move off of him.
Yeah, cosign. Any other thoughts on that one? Alrighty. Kurash, I'm sure I mispronounced that one as well, but over on YouTube, my apologies on that one. Traded Jamar Chase for Devonta Smith and Metcalf. Is that a win or a loss?
Mind this. With AJ Brown missing time, DK had the big game last week. We expect the Seahawks to continue to throw the ball a little bit more. I don't mind this personally. Like, I know that it looks kind of funky. Yes, Jamar Chase might be the best raw talent of this group, but again, when wide receivers are dropping like flies, if you can get a 2-for-1 and create yourself some depth, it's not a bad thing, especially because you're getting you're getting 2 wide receiver 2s with wide receiver 1 upside and wide receiver 3 floors. Like, you're getting good value for this.
Right. Yeah, I would agree as well, right? Especially with what I think we're going to see out of Metcalf season long here. It's not going to surprise me if we end up looking up at this thing and we see Metcalf slide into back end wide receiver 1 territory, top end wide receiver 2 territory when it's all said and done. Devonta Smith will, I think, be a very firm wide receiver 2. So, while Chase certainly has the best ceiling out of all of that, I like the floor play that you were able to get there and provided some depth and really, be able to navigate some rosters there. Marlon over on YouTube, please, what should I change in a 10-person PPR league? Running backs are Saquon, Mason, Mixon, wide receivers Jamar Chase, Ayuk, Rice, Higgins, Shakir, Brian Thomas, tight ends Bowers, Kincaid, QB is Kyler, and kicker is JT, and the
get rid of Justin Tucker. That's your
right, and the Jets defense on this one.
You need Higgins to play this week before you can really do anything.
Right.
Unfortunately, but you need Higgins to play. You need him to show well, and then with this lineup, you're looking to potentially flip Higgins for I don't know. I mean, this sounds crazy, but if Higgins has a great game, like, I'd at least toss the flyer out, like, Higgins and Mixon for like a Breece Hall or a Najee, or not Najee, for Bijan. And they may not want to do that. Like, I don't know that I would do that, but you're at least getting some name value and some upside if they're hurting at depth. Maybe not. But 10-team league, it's kind of hard to hurt on depth. That's why I don't like 10-team leagues.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of stacked rosters kind of throughout there.
Yeah, everybody feels like Superman. No one wants to do anything. So that's why I don't like the 10 teams.
Right.
Other than that, I like it. Bowers and Kincaid, like, good Lord. Like, you're definitely set up with pass catchers. So you just need Higgins to actually play. But Chase, Ayuk, and Rice being able to start there, And then to go along with that, Saquon, Mason, and Mixon. Like I don't Bowers and Murray. Like I'm not shying away from this starting lineup. I would take it.
Right. Alrighty. Ezekiel, is Mostert is available? Is he a good pickup?
Yeah.
Depends on who you're dropping and depends on what your roster construct is. But yes, I'm not shying away from Mostert, right? If I have an opportunity and I'm giving up Greg Dortch, right? If I'm giving up a fifth wide receiver for Raheem Mostert, then yeah, I will absolutely take that.
Yeah, agreed. Alrighty. Jordan saying that was a good point on Daniel Jones. I think that's for the comments you were talking about earlier there.
He's still learning how to play football.
Yes. Alrighty. Rust Maniac over on YouTube. Hey, got a waiver question. I'm dropping the Chiefs defense already for the Chargers for a stream this week. These guys are on waivers. Quentin Johnston, Jerry Jeudy, Carson Steele, Demarcus Robinson. I got waivers for all of them. What order should I take them in?
Well, again, roster construct. I'm probably going Steele, then Robinson, then Jeudy, then Quentin Johnston. And Jeudy and Quentin Johnston, you guys could make an argument that say no Johnston over Jeudy, and I'm not going to argue with you. It's just as I'm looking at this, I'm going Steele first, then Robinson, then Jeudy, then Johnson.
Yeah. I think I'm right there with you. I might take the Quentin Johnston over the Jerry Jeudy, just off of some previous seasons having had Jerry Jeudy and doing it for some variety in my lineup. But
yeah, there's definitely a thing of scorned lover syndrome, and Jeudy has done that. Like
yes,
he's the wide receiver version of Kyle Pitts right now.
Well, yes,
and I'm afraid I fell into that trap in the home league.
Fair enough. Jordan saying that Ryan Tannehill's out there just rotting away. Alrighty, guys.
Can you imagine Miami bringing him back after the way they treated him?
That would be hysterical. I'm not gonna lie. So guys, we're gonna go through. We're gonna hit up the comments that are in the chat now, and we're gonna call it a night here. So let's go ahead and keep rocking and rolling here. Marlon over on YouTube saying that they have Bucky Irving, but he's not really relevant right now.
He will be. You're right.
Yep. Jordan saying earlier thinks he's holding on the comments from earlier and thinking that Shakir a breakout is coming. And Monkey over on YouTube, what running back would you try and go for with Pollard and Waddle? So packaging Pollard and Waddle, trying to combine those names. That was interesting. What running back would you try and target for with that kind of package?
Let's see if you could capitalize on the slow start for Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon potentially. Would probably be where I'd start. Yeah, I think that's probably where I'd start with how Pollard started, and depending on how people feel about Jalen Waddle.
Right. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that one? Do I trade Henry and Moss for Jamar? I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I'd hold Pat.
I think the Henry boom is going to be coming here.
Yeah. And he follows it up with the starting wide receivers right now are DK and Terry. Other than Moss and Henry, I have Saquon, Ford, Chubb when he comes back for the RBs. So I'd rather have the 1-2 punch with Henry, Saquon, and
who's your other wide receivers though? Like I get Terry McLaurin has kind of crapped all over himself here. Some of it his fault and some of it not, but I think it's really understanding what your other wide receivers look like. Because I understand wanting to upgrade from Terry McLaurin. I get that.
Yeah. Alrighty. And then so Camden saying, would you trade Jalen Waddle for Jaden Reed?
I don't know. Like, yeah.
Probably.
I don't know that I hate that. Like, Jaden Reed's going to have some. Yeah, if you're willing to sit through the next couple weeks, and I think you're going to kind of have to do that with either one of them, right? Until you figure out what's really going on with Tua or until Jordan Love comes back. But I don't hate that.
Yeah.
And if this Tua thing's as bad as I'm starting to get my gut feeling thinking it is, if you can move that needle now, that's not a terrible thing. While Jaden Reed's kind of a buy low candidate at the moment, only because didn't have a strong game. Jordan Love's not there, so the offense wasn't as creative as it would be for Jordan Love.
Right. We'll go ahead and hit back up to this one. So C-Dog saying the other wide receivers are Cook. Mike Williams right now just lost Hollywood to come back to that one. Yeah, it's a little tough.
You might be in a position that you have to.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I don't know that I love it. But I also don't know that once you trade Henry and Moss that you're just not back in the same problem just with running back.
Yeah. Yeah, because the running backs haven't been as kind of hit up hard on the injury at this point, right? That can always change, but
yeah, I think you're just trading one problem for another at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah. Alrighty. Brad saying, would you trade Amon-Ra for Ayuk and Jacobs? I would not.
No.
Says he needs a running back. Says he needs a running back, but no, I'm not giving up Amon-Ra for Brandon Ayuk and Josh Jacobs. Find me a different wide receiver, different running back combination, and potentially, or if I'm going straight up and really kind of jumping tiers in running back there, I might do it that way if really needing a running back. But yeah.
I don't think. I mean, yeah, and maybe I'm missing the boat with Jacobs here. I'm not loving it.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm right there as well. Russ Maniac back saying that on those waiver wire that they're the 6th pick, so they're thinking that Steele and Johnson may already be off the board there. So potential. Maybe. There is potential for that. And then Russ Maniac saying, would y'all trade Scary Terry for Jaden Reed? If I could get Jaden Reed for Scary, smash yes, move on. I want the Jaden Reed side.
I would do that straight up and get Jaden Reed. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's yeah. So pretty easy, smash yes and move on for us on that one, Russ Maniac. Alrighty, guys. That is all the questions and the comments we have in the chat there. And so we're gonna call it a night. We'll be back live again. Kevin and I will on the Friday night side of things, and be ready to rock and roll here on the Bet Set Snap Friday Night Lights. But before we call it a night here, any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Good luck, right? I mean, tons of questions tonight, right? Lots of, because of the injuries and just trying to figure out where these things sit with the lineups as we get used to offensive schemes and philosophies this year, how defenses are going to be playing against certain teams. So tons of things that we're trying to shake out here at the beginning of the season. Just keep in mind, if you're 2-0, that does not mean that you are going to be crowned champion. And if you are 0-2, that does not mean that you're going to miss a chance for a championship. Like, stay with the grind. Like this is, we're getting into it a little bit earlier than some years, but that's okay. So stay with it. We will absolutely do what we can to help out Derek plugged it earlier, but I'll hit it again. So hit us up at Good Old Boys FF, wherever you consume your social media content. And then please go over to YouTube, subscribe and like what we're doing over here. So that way you guys can get the notifications for when we go live. And then we'll be able to interact with you guys as we're doing shows here on Tuesdays and Fridays throughout the season.
Yeah, I think the Friday show is going to be one that everybody's going to want to tune into because we'll have more information then. We'll have a little bit more about what's going on closer to it. So
I'm already feeling that we are going to have to punt our show doc.
Whatever your
Friday
plan is, get rid of it because
yeah.
And that's okay. Like, I love the Friday shows for this reason. The Friday shows function a lot like how this show did. It's a ton of questions and we're just bouncing things off of each other. Like, I love the Friday shows for that reason. So it's not hurting my feelings. But yeah, I think Derek and I might have to put our heads together here and just kind of rethink what Friday might look like. Just so many things up in the air for this week.
Right.
A lot of things.
Absolutely. So, and then too, right? They Kevin and Alex already let you know about the subscribing on YouTube, all of that, and across all the socials, you can find us all of those places. But we also end up putting out some early waiver wire kind of thoughts and things like that when it comes to first thing Tuesday morning for y'all as well. So there's the some things there that can help you kind of stir some thoughts up there as well. Alrighty, but I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Jordan saying, let's get that W. Absolutely. Let's go get it. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in, all the questions, all the comments. Absolutely love it. We'll be back again Friday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, right where you found us again tonight. So make sure you're tuning in there. But that's going to do it for us. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe.